So, when you think of fun nostalgia, no doubt you'll agree that hands down, the 80s were a quote unquote goldmine decade of awesome animated series, aka cartoons. Inspector Gadget was a most nostalgic part of that awesomeness, and we're super ready and excited to travel back to the year of 1983, where this throwback made its debut. Are you ready to tap into the fond memories surrounding this animated gem? It's a case of laughter in the first degree. Go, go, gadget apples.
So, jumping right in, I am so excited to revisit this week's topic in our orchard trek.
Me too, Kennedy. This is a good one.
It sure is. We're taking the liberty to talk about one of our all time favorite simpleton, dim witted bionic detectives, that of Inspector Gadget.
Yay!
Yay!
Woo! Inspector Gadget. It is a classic.
Oh, yeah.
It's really shows and cartoons like this that makes one realize how much you can miss your childhood.
Hmm.
Whenever I catch an episode of Inspector Gadget here and there, instantaneously those warm nostalgic memories come flooding back.
It really does. Now, it first premiered on September 12th, 1983, and is the first cartoon series to be syndicated by DIC or DEEK, specifically created to help expand into the North American market, as well as the first cartoon to be presented in stereo sound. So it was to be produced directly for syndication.
So fun fact. Did you know that Inspector Gadget was the second cartoon in the USA to hit in syndication on weekday afternoons instead of Saturday mornings?
Okay, so you said that Gadget was the second. So what exactly was the first?
Nice that you should ask. The first was yet another one of our retro animated favorites, and that was He Man and the Masters of the Universe,
Oh,
also
yes.
in '83.
Oh, yeah. Amazingly cool.
And as we mentioned at the outset, Inspector Gadget debuted in the year of 1983 and originally ran from then up until '86, broadcasting, get this, 86 episodes over 2 seasons.
Mm, mm, mm.
It remained in syndication well into the late '90s.
Well, it looks like the plan of what the creative execs of this set out to do in regards to syndication, it looked like it actually worked.
It would seem so honk-entered.
Yeah.
So we were fans and used to loyally watch this while growing up. So actually, it was one of our close guy friends who introduced us to Inspector Gadget, and we would watch it with him. And that was just such good times.
Yes, it was good times. And see, we have to give him nods to that because we can't, he's not part of the girl squad. He never was. But he did turn us on to Inspector Gadget. So yes. So that's his kudo there. That's his cookie. So yes, good times indeed, Cooper.
Absolutely.
And just like many of the other key examples of retro entertainment has demonstrated, I especially fondly remembered and liked the show's opening sequence montage of Inspector Gadget's adventures, playing out right along with the theme song. I can hear it in my mind if I can actually get it to work.
Oh, agreed on getting the mind to work as well. I totally understand. But you know what? That song is the stuff fond memories are made of.
Mhm.
But we'll get more into that background history of the music here in a bit.
We most certainly will. Because what we stumbled upon was very interesting.
Mhm.
Uh, but real quick, back to the theme song. Um, I especially fondly remember and like the opening sequence montage playing out right along with the theme song. That was always so entertaining, and you knew with just that we were in for a most fun ride.
Yes, yes, truly. But even though this was both exciting and new for us and kids everywhere, the whole idea surrounding Inspector Gadget was not a new concept. Yeah, in fact, one could kind of say that the concept was a repurposed or repackaged in an animated form.
Mm-hmm.
So get this fun fact. If certain aspects of Inspector Gadget seemed a tad bit familiar, then, dear Orchard Archivers, you are correct. Did you know that this show contained key references to an earlier popular series entitled Get Smart from 1965?
Oh, now that's going back some years.
Sure are, Kennedy. So now that we've shared that fun fact, you may be happy to know now that the opening sequence montage has Inspector Gadget going through many doors to meet his superior, Chief Quimby, in which titular character Max Smart did in Get Smart in the 1965 opening sequence for the show. How cool and ironic.
Oh, fascinating, Cooper.
Yeah.
You might think, oh, this is just a campy cartoon, but I love seeing so many pieces of creation coming together that makes up the fine tuned finished product of our ever loving retro memories.
Yeah. And everyone has, you know, obviously put their minds and work into it,
Yeah,
and it's ideally cast.
agreed.
The characters truly add a huge component to Inspector Gadget. It was no doubt a very colorful cast lineup, talent for the voices and everything that was involved.
Hmm.
The writing was strong and consistent, which is a hallmark trait that's so much woven into the various forms of entertainment back then. Inspector Gadget has a lot of slapstick humor, of which is absolutely primo.
Yeah, Inspector Gadget is our bumbling yet very lovable hero and was voiced by actor Don Adams, whose voice was nasally sharp and snappy. It was the perfect tone set for a character who thought himself right all of the time, no matter what. And the comical part about that whole stance of Gadget's was that this was only probably true 30% of the time.
I think that's being generous. So, fun fact, since Inspector Gadget was influenced by the 1965 show Get Smart, that possibly by coincidence, there are 86, that's 86 episodes in total, which that count includes the pilot. And
Okay.
86 was the code number of Don Adams' previous role, that of Maxwell Smart.
That's a cool reference potentially for all those retro boomers out there.
Yeah.
So each episode, Inspector Gadget would receive his case instructions from his police chief, Chief Quimby. This right here is hilarious because usually when he and Inspector Gadget were set in order to communicate the operations instructions, Chief Quimby hilariously was often cramped up in an unlikely spot, would then make himself manifest by popping out of a curiously conspicuous space, like a trash can, fireplace, filing cabinet, oven. You get the picture.
Yo.
Then return to hiding only for a brief few seconds, though.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh is right. Inspector Gadget would then toss off his instruction paper back at Quimby into his chosen hiding space in total litter bugging fashion, resulting in an embarrassing explosion, much to Chief Quimby's chagrin.
You can picture it now.
I know, right?
Yes.
He got that soot on his face.
Oh my goodness. So, on that note, got a couple of interesting fun facts to share. Fun fact one, we had just shared the whole premise concept of Inspector Gadget, that came from 1965 version of Get Smart.
Mhm.
much to many a boomer's nostalgic delight. So, did you know that in Inspector Gadget, the sequences in which Chief Quimby is disguised or hidden in a cramped or unlikely spot, as you just described, Kennard, is much reminiscent of Agent 13 in 1965 Get Smart.
No, not at all. Did not know that because we are not familiar with this reference. Get Smart was way before our time, but although they've made a remake movie of Get Smart in 2008, starring Steve Carell and The Rock, I'm almost ashamed to say that I've only seen it like once and still not very familiar with the components of the film.
For shame is right.
Yeah.
Because I really enjoyed the 2008 version.
Okay.
Yeah, Steve Carell, he's just nuts.
He is.
And it was hilarious to boot. But brilliant that they patterned Inspector Gadget off of the Get Smart concept.
Well, that's why I'm obsessed with the things that we find out doing a little bit of research.
Mhm.
We learn something valuable each and every time. Well done, Cooper. What else you got?
Okay, so fun fact two, the self-destructing messages that regularly nailed Quimby was borrowed, sorry, was borrowed from, get this, Mission Impossible from 1996.
Hmm,
I'm beginning to see a pattern starting here.
very interesting. Another late 60s elite covert operations reference, no doubt, which wonderfully and fittingly shaped our fun, nostalgic topic this week of Inspector Gadget.
Mhm.
So, Gadget, after obliterating Chief Quimby with one of those self destruct messages,
Poor Chief Quimby.
yes, Gadget would then go off in search of the opportunity to save the day and fight crime with the assistance of countless mechanical props or gadgets at his disposal that particularly sprang from every orifice.
Mm-hmm.
After all, he was fairly bionic.
He sure was. He was loaded with all sorts of clever little mechanical props. Even his car would change in the midst of adventure. So let me see. Some of his gadgets included, but not limited to, having a flashlight finger, a parachute coat, springs and coils for legs and arms, roller skates, scissors, an umbrella, and of course the helicopter that sprung from the top of his hat. Go, go, gadget copter. That was not very good.
It worked. But his gadgets were always the coolest, huh, Coop?
Oh, yeah. We were so enthralled and glued to the tube whenever Inspector Gadget came on.
Yeah, we were. So, what was your favorite gadget that he had or used?
I would have to say, do you remember that he had the gadget phone? Not the one that came from his hat, but he had the gadget phone that would be his finger and his thumb.
Yes, I do.
I would have to say that because that's very reminiscent of where we are today. He had a phone
Ah,
everywhere.
okay, nice, nice. Um,
You?
I liked the copter that came from his hat. I thought that was pretty neat. Like he could really boogie with that thing.
He could be anywhere he needed to be.
Yes. Oh, so now equipped with loads and loads of gadgets, Inspector Gadget would journey out on his mission to solve a crime. There's still one major bit of a problem.
Mhm.
And what is this said problem, you might ask?
Yeah,
Well, it's that Inspector Gadget once again was a noticeably dim-witted bumbling fella.
he was a walking disaster zone, to put it lightly, wasn't he now?
Yes, he was.
And this is where his dear niece Penny and his pet dog Brain would do the actual legwork and assisting Uncle Gadget on his ventures. Save the day and solve the case, all of which Gadget took the credit. So, this is one of the best parts of the show, being where Penny would always solve the crime. For me, Penny wasn't irritating, but very sharp as well as likable. Wowzers.
And then there's Brain, Penny's dog companion. Brain really gets some of the best airtime scenes in the series. Along with Penny, Brain would save both the day and Uncle Gadget from numerous bouts of impending harm. But, what they say about the best laid plans. Uncle Gadget had a knack for walking right into trouble with a capital T.
But with the help of his trusty sidekicks, unbeknownst to him.
Because once again, Inspector Gadget is completely clueless.
He is. He'd then solve the crime or crack the case and get a glowing credit.
Oh my gosh. Oh. The stories and lines in Inspector Gadget were always exciting and well thought out, right along with it developing with a good pace. So the main storyline presented is how in each episode, Inspector Gadget was up against and battled the evil forces of MAD and its minions, MAD agents, under the mastermind of MAD, Dr. Claw. Dr. Claw!
One of the cool things surrounding the mystery of Dr. Claw is that Dr. Claw's face was never shown throughout the entire run of the show. But get this, we all know from other famous brands and entities that smacks of hardcore 80s pop culture. Inspector Gadget was no different. So, fun fact, after many years of being shrouded in mystery, Dr. Claw's cartoon face was finally revealed by way of his action figure in true 80s form. Release the Kraken! And speaking of toys, do you remember that I had the Inspector Gadget board game?
Yes, vaguely. I do. Oh my gosh, that'd probably be worth some money now, you think?
Oh, I would imagine so. And of course, like so many other things that we had from back in the day, Mom would get rid of it. It went the way of the dodo.
She really did. She was not very kind when it came to our toys and games.
Yeah, she's like, she didn't think long term, she's like, it's raggedy, it's gone, bye.
That's it. She was ruthless.
She was.
Oh gosh, but okay. So I'm glad you brought that up about Dr. Claw and such.
Uh-huh.
And as we've stated previously, Dr. Claw is the leader of an evil organization known as MAD, and his goons being appropriately named MAD agents that go around putting obstacles in Inspector Gadget's way. The acronym MAD, M-A-D, is indeed a parody of Spectre from the James Bond films and Thrush from the television series The Man from U.N.C.L.E. Now, that's way over my head. It's so very unfamiliar to me because one, it doesn't sound remotely familiar to me at all. And two, I'm not much of a sci-fi fan, to be quite honest with you. Sorry, I'm a buzzkill.
Well, I would have to say that I have seen The Man from U.N.C.L.E., the new version of The Man from U.N.C.L.E.
Oh.
So seeing MAD with the periods in between the letters for the acronym, that does look like The Man from U.N.C.L.E. So that would probably be the only thing that would clue it in, but that's not a whole lot to go on.
Okay.
So, between the two of us, I am definitely more of the sci-fi fan. And you're totally missing out there, Kennage.
Well, gladly missing out.
We'll convert you.
I don't know about that. But I've seen and liked a couple of sci-fi offerings here and there. But it's just so hard for me to get into it. I don't know. Yeah. It's not my first choice, I'll tell you that. But I've been humbled a few times, though, and ended up liking some sci-fi offerings. Okay.
You will take it.
But I'm still not a sci-fi fan for the most part.
Okay.
But I really do like Inspector Gadget, and that's probably due to it being animated and cute.
It really is.
It just makes my brain happy.
You're absolutely nuts, Kennedy.
Certifiable.
And now we're way off topic. If we don't put a stop to this, we'll end up grinding gears to get back on track. Okay, let me see. Where were we? Oh yes, MAD, the acronym and their origins.
Yeah.
Well, MAD, MAD's, eh, MAD, yeah. Anyway, so we may ask, what exactly does MAD stand for? We all may wonder. So, well, there isn't exactly a direct answer or idea for MAD, but there's a couple of ideas floating around. And that being said, let's say MAD could mean malevolent agency of destruction and or mean and dirty.
Oh my goodness, that second choice is pretty lame. I don't know.
So, fun fact, now that we've unofficially speculated on what the acronym MAD might stand for, we'll get this. The acronym MAD has had a few definitions, or explanations bouncing around on what it could canically stand for, but is not 100% clearly known. Like, did we just waste our time wondering about that?
Never. We never waste time speaking on any angle of nostalgia here at the Retro Orchard.
Got that right.
So let's briefly talk about the infamous Mad Agents. Oh, I remember well the Mad Agents. They were, shall we say, the shifty type? Big and daffy and all that good stuff.
But hey, no matter. They did the job Dr. Claw needed them to do. So they were such an integral part of the plot and story. Now, there were reoccurring henchmen we'd usually see mostly in any given episode. So, Kennard, as well as to our Orchard archivers,
Yes.
Can you guess about how many MAD agents there were? And do you remember their names? Hit us back if you think you might know the answers.
That'll be very interesting to see what we find out. Huh. So while that venture inquiry is baking, let's discuss a couple of details once again on the entity of MAD. The organization always creates situations where they're stealing treasures and other valuable items, kidnapping a VIP of sorts, regularly laying traps for Inspector Gadget, and the Mad Agents disguise themselves for their constant mischief. Now, as far as kidnapping is concerned, it's usually Gadget's niece Penny who winds up in this spot whenever she's caught snooping around.
And after the fun and chaos ensues over the 22-minute long airtime playout, Inspector Gadget solves the case, and in the end, Chief Quimby congratulates Inspector Gadget for ruining Mad's schemes once again.
Wowzers! Talking about this really takes you back.
It does.
It's so crazy nostalgic. Hey, Cooper.
Yeah.
Have we gotten any hits yet on our Mad Agent question? I mean, I'm super curious as to if anyone out there is aware of that bit of information or not.
Yes, we've got about 4 to 5 decent guesses, but nothing concrete as of yet.
Oh, okay.
So nice job, though, you Orchard archivers. Keep those guesses coming.
Nice. We do end up having a lot of fun here on our podcast. We nostalgia lovers definitely are a tribe.
We sure are. Our Orchard archivers are the best.
Yes, they are.
Now, briefly back to Dr. Claw. We mentioned previously how in the series that we never saw his face. The only thing we could see was his uniformed and armored arm and hand. But he had a little friend always curled up by his side, right next to his chair. Who or what was that?
Good follow-up trivia question there, Cooper.
I'm belting them out.
Yes, you is. So we can only see Dr. Claw's arm and hand as well as his ever faithful companion. But something else that was very distinctive about Dr. Claw was that you could also hear when he was around too.
Truly, Kennard. Dr. Claw was voiced by two very talented voice actors, that of Don Franks, and the other is Frank Welker, who is another one of our nostalgic favorites.
Mhm.
Just think of that iconic raspy laugh that's delivered at the end of many of his lines.
Oh, I so agree, Coop. The chosen voice talents included in and all throughout Inspector Gadget was absolutely primo. You can easily dial up any of the voice talent contributions by memory, especially Uncle Gadget.
Yes, this is true. So, on that tip, fun fact, did you know that Frank Welker and Don Adams recorded their dialogue in separate recordings in Los Angeles, while the rest of the first season's cast recorded in Toronto?
Hmm.
Yeah, Don Adams reportedly recorded all of his lines for the 65 installments of the first season in, get this, 1 week long marathon.
Wowzers! That's pretty fascinating, Coop.
Did he eat or sleep?
Inquiring minds want to know.
We do.
That's pretty hardcore.
Yeah, it
Wow. And this obviously all worked out well in the interplay of how this animated wonder played out.
is. Mm-hmm.
So all of these interesting components together really made for such a wonderful retro gym memory for us wide eyed young kids back in the day.
Like what you hear so far? Make sure you never miss a show by clicking the subscribe button now. This podcast is made possible by listeners like you. Thank you for your support. Now, back to the show. So, we got some nice feedback coming in here for our trivia questions freshly launched. So, we got a nice flow of responses from our loyal Orchard archivers.
Sweet.
So, the answer is correct in that what and whom is Dr. Claw's faithful companion, and that would be a most ornery feline named Mad Cat.
Oh, Mad Cat.
Yes, naughty kitty. Thank you, Jar22, for your rapt response. Thank you, archivers, for your submissions. But our trivia barrel still has a looming question, and that has yet to be answered. So please keep them coming. We still have a couple minutes left here on the show.
Oh, totally. So, one more thing we promised to get back to you before we end here this week in regards to Inspector Gadget, and that is the music connected to it,
Mhm.
which, in my humble opinion, was a nice added layer that made the entity of Inspector Gadget to just pop.
Which in turn made it that much more memorable and nostalgic. So the theme music was inspired by Edvard Grieg's Hall of the Mountain King score in connection to Shuki Levy and Haim Sabin of the now Sabin Music Group. This wonderful collaboration has provided music for many deep cartoons and children's shows in the 80s and 90s.
Many of the background music cues were a variation of the Inspector Gadget melody. So even at special events taking place within the cartoon, such as carnivals or other recreational activities, that gadget melody often played. I can hear it now. You may even catch Inspector Gadget humming his own theme music a time or two.
You sure would.
How'd it go? Goes down 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 doo-doo.
It's kind of ugly.
It was ugly. Perfect for kids.
Right. Kept them enthralled. So there was a range of other musical cues, though, for each important character. Cues for the various moods of the scenes.
Mhm.
And Penny and Brain each had different, they had several different renditions of their respective musical themes and tunes. So speaking of Penny and Brain, I was always impressed, even at a young age, of how brilliantly they portrayed Penny, and by extension, Brain, how she, for a young lady, handled her business and took care of Uncle Gadget and saving the day multiple times, I'd say.
Oh, you're so right. She really did save us bahunkus a lot. I mean, each episode, Penny would secretly operate behind the scenes to foil Mad's plot.
Mhm.
Dr. Claw frequently instructs his goons to get rid of Inspector Gadget before he can intercept the game plan Claw has in place.
It's cute too, to note that while Inspector Gadget is accident and trouble prone, he always manages to escape danger with the help of Brain, the family dog.
Oh, if Inspector Gadget only knew.
Yes. Would cleverly shadow Inspector Gadget in disguise, often so well that he caused Inspector Gadget to chase him in the mistaken belief that he was a mad agent.
And meanwhile, Penny remains in contact with Brain during the investigation, often finding trouble herself and needing Brain to rescue her by utilizing her own savvy technology. So, do you remember what tech items Penny readily used at her disposal coop?
Oh, yes, I remember well because I was always wanting her ultra cool tech savvy gadgets. Pun intended. So there were two distinct tools she used: a high tech computer disguised as a book, and she also had a special utility wristwatch which she used to communicate with Brain, as well as being able to monitor and keep tabs on her klutzy uncle's activities.
And there's a futuristic caramel apple baked into a retro fan favorite with those two gadgets Penny owned and used. Penny had at her disposal her laptop slash tablet equivalent and smartwatch back then, what is so very commonplace now.
I know, so cool, right?
Oh, yes, way ahead for its time. And these tech items proved most helpful for Penny whenever she got kidnapped by Mad, whenever they caught her snooping into their affairs, but thankfully manages to successfully escape with the aid of these two items, as well as her super sweet dog brain.
Poor sweet Brain. I always watched his adventures unfolding in uneasy anticipation, as he would receive the bulk of the bumps, scrapes, and bruises from playing out the hero each episode. I always felt so sorry for him and
Yeah.
worried if he'd come through, which he would. But I always had a soft spot for Brain. Like Penny, Brain was equipped with a high tech collar that contained a retroactive video communication system linked to Penny's wristwatch. Another cute recollection of Brain was in how he communicated to Penny through those video communications, and that was using both a blend of pantomimes and physical gestures.
Oh, I remember
Just
that.
too cute. Love Brain. He was more like his people's field agent than a pet.
Goodness, it's just so much fun dialing up these wildly fascinating nostalgia because it reaches back into our mental recesses about Inspector Gadget.
I know, right?
Yeah. And there's so much more fascinating things we can go on and on about with this animated gem, but we're needing to soon tie this discussion up. So, long story short, any given case when an investigation neared its completion, Penny covertly gets in touch with Uncle Gadget's boss, Chief Quimby, in order to alert him that Inspector Gadget's arrest of the case's offending culprit in the mad scheme old Dr. Claw put into motion.
Yes. So good old Brain Penny once
That's,
again.
that's right, Brain the Super Dog.
Both were masters of investigation and technology.
And for Brain, being a master of disguise.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you think about it. What a glimpse into the future, because people dress up their pooches now, so he had any and every kind of outfit he would ever need.
He really did. He was set.
Yes. And think too of what type of persona Inspector Gadget is. He's so adorable because despite his ineptness, Inspector Gadget's effectiveness as a detective was undermined by his cheerful, jovial optimism. So that was always cool.
Yes, the sun is always shining for Inspector Gadget.
He was.
So once the case is solved, Dr. Claw always vows revenge on Inspector Gadget for foiling his schemes.
Again.
Yes. And he would always end each episode with his infamous catchphrase, I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time. Expressing his strong desire to indeed exact revenge against Inspector Gadget as he slams his fist on the desk, scaring poor Mad Cat in the process.
Aw.
then, then he and Mad Cat flee the scene in a jet off to the next destination to wreak havoc.
So, Dr. Claw most of the time was on site at his location to oversee his evil plans. Fun fact: Dr. Claw's headquarters are located in an old castle. And Kennedy, can you remember where it was that Inspector Gadget lived? What fictional city, what it was called?
Well, he and they, talking about him and the family, lived in Metro City. So that means as a policeman, or rather inspector,
Yes.
he worked along with the Metro City PD. Is that you, Chief? You're where? I'm always on duty.
That was spot on. Nicely done.
Thanks.
So, Inspector Gadget, the TV series, was created for the syndication market, and as we've discussed, turned out to be a profitable hit. So, for my next thought, you probably can guess what I'm about to share.
Oh no. Yep, I know. Go on.
Yes, you're right. So, well, true to Hollywood fashion, they try to grab at the profitability as well as the nostalgic strings of so many a Gen Xer or Xennials, all when the film version hit the big screen entitled Inspector Gadget in 1999, starring Matthew Broderick. Not surprising, it received lukewarm reception, only receiving a 21% approval rating on Rotten Apples. I mean, Rotten Tomatoes.
Well, I guess no more needs to be said, huh?
Uh-huh. But this caramel apple suspects that Hollywood is hard of hearing because 4 years later, in 2003, the sequel was released. And although this time, instead of hitting the big screen, it was direct to video release.
Uh-oh.
And also this time without Matthew Broderick. Yeah, he gracefully declined. He,
And I can't even begin to imagine why.
he probably regrets having the first one on his resume.
From the way the second one turned out, yeah. Oops. Well, thanks for sharing that valuable info there, Coop.
Mhm.
So, before we wrap up this week's Orchard Trek, I have to wonder if we got any viable leads on our trivia question about the Mad Agents.
Well, we got quite a few submissions actually, but
Oh.
I'll say the effort was grand. We got close, but no cigar. Or shall I say, no caramel apple this time. But thanks again so much, Orchard Archivers. You guys gave 110%, that loyal effort, and we're forever and always grateful for that. Keep them coming.
Oh, yes, keep them coming. Well, we'll just go ahead and give the answers. So, you archivers, we asked how many reoccurring henchmen or mad agents there were. Coop?
8. There were 8.
Okay, 8. And what were the 8 mad agents' names?
Okay, so we have Fred, Dick, Pops, Jarvis, Bruce, Slick, Lenny, and last but not least, Squirt.
That's funny. And I can so visualize them right at this very moment.
Mhm.
But everyone was ideally cast, lots and lots of slapstick, which we love.
Yes, we do. And Inspector Gadget is one of those shows that has a set formula for what happens in each episode, but it really is so entertaining, and in its action and comedy that even after 86 episodes, it didn't seem stale.
Right, right.
It kept you wanting more.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what happened, you'll still be laughing at Inspector Gadget and cheering on his niece Penny and dog Brain as they're the real ones who would save the day. Even laugh heartily at a couple of the self destructing messages or two.
Hey, Coop, even watching Mad Cat silly antics.
Yes.
We being cat moms ourselves, you'd think about Mad Cat serving up his offering of entertainment when he does random stuff like mimicking Dr. Claw's fish shaking or tying Dr. Claw's hand to his chair for no reason.
It's so bad.
I know, like getting his little digs in, I see.
Yes.
Cats are like that. They are so incredibly rotten.
They are, and it's a universal known fact.
Yes, yes.
So the storylines were always exciting and well thought out, which helped this animated wonder to develop and blossom as it played out and took us along on this journey. Well, we've come to our close this week, but I so enjoyed talking about it in great detail. That Inspector Gadget and revisiting fond memories of the show and whatnot.
I enjoyed it immensely as well, Coop. So, although a dim fellow, Inspector Gadget was a lovable policeman.
Metro City PD.
Yes. An uncle, pet parent by nature, and he's a caring family man that rarely thought twice to take the risk in order to protect Penny and Brain.
And ironically, they did the same for Inspector Gadget. Wowzers. And as Dr. Claw would readily say,
I'll get you next time, Gadget. Next time.
There's a bit of the penguin there.
Oh, it was. Loved what you heard on this week's episode? Well, the answer is simple. To tune into future treks into the Orchard Archives, meet up with us here next week, same time, same place at the Sweet Spot. And it would mean the world to us if you could leave us a shining review and feedback. Spreading the word really is the best way to grow our podcast and explore more iconic memories. Thank you.